Hello, my name is Adela Howsare-Palacios, and today I will be presenting on the roles of female characters in ancient Roman comedies. The ancient Romans have been of scholarly interest for hundreds of years and have been the subject of many documentaries, books, and other scholarly journals. The comedic works that were an integral part of their culture have also been a popular area of study. Female characters did have roles in these plays, but they were often not in the spotlight and not essential to the plot. Instead, they were background characters. Additionally, all female characters and roles were written and performed by men. This means that the portrayal of women in these comedies was not based on actual female experiences, but rather the male perceptions of them. In this project, I aim to observe not only the place that Roman women held in society, but also the way in which they were perceived in the ancient Roman world by those around them, especially the men that wrote these plays. I hypothesize that some aspects of these plays will represent real-life historical accounts of which we have evidence, while others will twist or exaggerate gender roles to add humor to the comedies. The first comedy that I chose to analyze was Lysistrata by Aristophanes. The story of Lysistrata deals with women during the Second Peloponnesian War. A woman named Lysistrata, for whom the play is named after, gets very tired of her husband not being home from the war and not being by her side. Many other women in Greece share this sentiment, so she contacts and rounds up the women from all over Greece and convinces them of a plan to bring home their husbands from the war and effectively end the Second Peloponnesian War. This plan is to refuse to have sex with their husbands until they agree to sign a truce, end the war, and come back home to their wives. In the end, the women triumph and they do get their husbands back. Some of the historical accuracies in this, based on evidence, are that women did not have any place in government, so they couldn't make any legal decisions about the war like men could. Women were able to have an indirect influence on politics through their husbands or male relatives, but they could never be a part of it themselves. This is why in this play the women had to resort to something other than a legal route in order to try to end the war. Most of the women in this comedy are heavily objectified. The women are more objects of temptation and seduction than they are their own characters with needs and wants and desires of their own. Except for, actually, Lysistrata, which is rather interesting, because she possesses qualities that the other women in the play do not. She is intelligent, she is strong-willed, and she also does not have the same seductive sexual role as the rest of the women in the play. Because of these differences between Lysistrata and the rest of the women in this play, it can be inferred that Aristophanes viewed women as either being at one extreme or the other, being leaders and not being the seductive subjects of desire, or being women that were temptresses and not being leaders who were intelligent and independent. The author of this play, Aristophanes, also portrays most of the women in the comedy, aside from Lysistrata, of course, as not wanting power and wanting to return home to fulfill their usual desires instead of denying the men what they want. This could be because Aristophanes, again, wanted to have that gap between women like Lysistrata and women like the background characters in the play. Aristophanes also exaggerates the powers of sexual desire for an additional comedic effect, because while the soldiers realistically may have felt deprived if they were not able to engage in sexual acts, I do not believe that it would have been something that could have ended an entire war. Another note about Lysistrata is that Aristophanes was Greek and not Roman. However, his plays were also performed in Roman theater, and the female representations in this play also apply to Roman women. The second play that I chose to analyze was Cassina by Plautus. The plot of Casina is that there is a beautiful girl that is dropped off at the door of Lycidius and Cleostrata. They take her in and they keep her as a servant. Lycidius sees how beautiful she is, and he wants Casina to marry his own slave so that way he may have sexual access to her. However, Cleostrata and Lycidius's son also desires to marry Casina since she is so beautiful. Lycidius and his friend try to come up with ways to keep his son from marrying her. However, on the other end, Cleostrata and her friend try to come up with ways to ensure that Casina marries her son and not her husband's slave, so that way Cleostrata keeps her husband to herself and her husband will not be having sexual relations with Casina. In the end of this play, the women actually triumph over the men in their plan, and Casina ends up marrying the son instead of Cleostrata's husband. One of the main historical accuracies in this play is that men had authority over their wives and daughters in the household. The women in the household were directed by their male members of the family. Although women had no direct authority, they could still manipulate their husbands indirectly, which we see in this play where Cleostrata cannot directly tell her husband not to do this to Casina, but she can conspire and work her way around and find other ways to get what she wants. Cleostrata heavily relies on her female friend to help in this situation. Women's social networks in Rome were absolutely vital because while one woman might not be able to tell one man what to do, several women, when banded together, might have been able to find a way to outsmart a man or to find a way to get around the rules of one man by helping each other. The slave girl Casina is heavily objectified. She is the point of conflict, however, she never appears in the play as a person and she never has any lines. She is only talked about and referred to. She is seen as this object of desire, however, she herself does not have a voice, and we never get to hear her opinions on her own situation or what she would like to do. This is again a common trait in Roman households, that the women, especially a slave woman like Casina, would not have any voice or any say in her fate. The play ends with Cleostrata substituting Casina for a man dressed as a woman. This ultimately foils her husband's plan while creating a humorous situation based on the violation of gender roles. In conclusion, I found that most female characters in Roman comedies largely had fit into the social norms of Roman women, which I found in historical evidence. When there was a violation of these norms, it was often to add humor, like in Lysistrata, where all the women end the Second Peloponnesian War just by refusing to have sex with their husbands. This is obviously unrealistic, however, it adds humor to the play that otherwise would not be there. Many of the female characters in these comedies were objectified or generalized. I believe that this is likely because all the female parts were written and performed by men. Had Roman women been able to write and stage their very own plays, I believe that their characters and their plots and their ideas would have differed greatly than those of their male counterparts. Thank you.